Cath Deveny has certainly lived a life. I've never met anyone as open and sure of herself as Dev. She blazes her own trail unapologetically, which is a very exciting energy to be around. Time with Cath feels dangerous and full. Creativity is her life force and she wears so many hats, she could probably use a few more heads. Writer, comedian, mother, lover, bipolar, dyslexic, ADHD, cat lover, feminist, entrepreneur, cyclist, marriage avoider, atheist. The list goes on. ChrissieCasters, meet the irrepressible and unforgettable Cath Deveny.
And hot.
And hot. I was going to say, are there any more labels that I may have forgotten?
Actually, the most important label that I identify as, I am Coburg's fifth most popular MILF. Now, I had to pause for a second there. I'm just going to say it again. I am Coburg's fifth most popular MILF because I have heard rumours that I have just jumped up to fourth. But I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Who's number 1, 2, 3 and, maybe?
Claire Bowditch is number 1.
Right, of course.
There's 3 other people who you won't know, Marie-Louise Walker, Genevieve Costigan and Bridget Costello, and that has me as fifth. But I'm always trying to eat my way up.
Does Bridget Costello know that you may have usurped her for number 4?
Well, who knows who it is, but I have heard that I'm on the way up with a bullet. But I don't, who knows?
Hang on,
so
does
yes,
Clementine Ford live in Coburg?
she has, but she doesn't now.
Oh, okay.
I was sixth then.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah, she's eaten her way like off that page of the Melways. There was a point where Melways.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a Melbourne word. I just thought all street directories were called Melways.
They're not.
They're not.
No.
And
there's a UBD, there's a Gregory's.
All flavoured milk was called Big M. Anywhere in the world, you could just walk in and get a chocolate Big M. I mean, these kind of things. Have you seen those maps in Australia that show a lot of our terms and how they change depending on where you are in the world?
Yes.
In the world, meaning Australia. So bathers,
yes,
togs, swimmers, cosy. So bathers is one of the words that changes.
Potato cake.
Potato cake. Some people call them, like you go potato scallop, I know it's like potato fritter.
Yes.
You knew that?
Yes, I did know that.
How have you not told people?
Because potato cakes /scallops /fritters, wherever you are listening from, is my favourite food of all time.
Oh, yeah.
My absolute favourite.
Hands down.
I turned 50 recently and work organised a birthday cake for me, which was just a pile of 300 potato cakes. I mean, that's love.
It is, depending on how good they are.
They were excellent.
But there is a huge spectrum of quality of potato cakes.
Agreed.
I think that there's not just one potato cake. The
great thing about a potato cake is often they do this miraculous thing where they multiply without you asking.
Oh, yes.
And I think I love that the most about them. Apart from the salty crispiness, I love that if you order 2, you're getting 3 and you never not get 3.
No, that's right.
Always. It's like an unspoken rule.
It's a kind of a generosity love language.
Yes.
So potato cakes, bathers, the midi schooner pot situation.
Oh, yeah.
But another one that might blow your mind, but you're across everything, Chrissie Swan. You're quite the devil.
I don't know, you might trick me here.
So if you go to Bunnings and you are hungry, what do you buy there?
A sausage and bread.
Right. But in other parts of Australia, that's not what you call it.
No, they call it a sausage sandwich.
They also call it a sausage sizzle. Like they call that. Not like we are going to a sausage sizzle and we are going to have a sausage bread. They will call that going, do you want a sausage sizzle? How many?
No, that's wrong though. The sausage sizzle is the destination.
God, if you think that's wrong, wait till what I'm going to say next. You hear. You ready? Some places in Australia call it a hot dog.
What? No, a hot dog is boiled. It's a frankfurt in a roll.
Do you know what? I think you should tell those people. I think we get in a car, we charter a plane and we tell them how wrong they are.
I feel like we're really isolating a lot of people right now and people get cranky about that.
Hey, before I came on here, I said, is there anything I can't say?
Yeah, but I didn't know
and
that
I went through some things that have gotten journalists sacked recently and broadcasters cancelled. She said anything.
Anything.
Say whatever you want.
I didn't know that you were going to go into sausages and bread, okay? Now, you said recently, I follow your Instagram religiously. I love you on it. And please follow Cath Deveny on Instagram. Yep. She's a genius. And I want to talk to you about this Panettone situation.
Of course you do.
Have you been banned from your local supermarket over crimes to Panettone?
It's unclear, and I have written to head office to find out, because there was a quite an unhinged manager who kind of was saying, if you video again, it's trespass, and then
Yes.
the cops and you're banned. And as I kept asking questions, responding to him saying, do you know how many phone calls we've got? I've said, no, how many? So I'm not entirely sure, but I think we need to back up and explain to people.
I agree. In a nutshell, Catherine noticed at her local IGA that even after Christmas, the Panettone had not been discounted.
Right. Now, there's some background to this. So firstly, Panettone is shit, and anyone who says it's not is lying.
I love Panettone. I love it.
Do you eat it all year?
No, I eat it just for Christmas.
Right. If you loved it, wouldn't you do it a little bit more
You
than
can't
that?
get it all year. It's like saying I would like hot cross buns all the time. I would, but you can't get them.
In Brunswick you can, because there's always regifting to be done. So I am anti-Panettone because I think it's overrated. It doesn't know whether it's like a cake or a bread. It's a stale
But that sort of confusion should be right up your alley.
or embraced.
Yeah.
It's like I'm pretty progressive, Chrissie. I think that is well known, and that's how people see me.
Absolutely.
But I'm sorry, Panettone, make up your mind.
Wow.
And anything that can last in a tin for like 24, 48 months and look exactly the same, I'm sorry, I'm not doing it.
That is unusual.
I respect my body too much. We've all seen that stuff with like the Maccas, leaving the
Yes.
Maccas for ages. I love Maccas as much as the next person. But Maccas are not pretending to be anything other than what they are. Whereas Panettone is wrapped up. It's got a fucking cellophane and a tin and a bow.
It's
anyway,
a celebratory bread.
I think I've got a bit more right to talk about this than you, because my children are half Sicilian, so I am sexually transmitted Italian. So
Okay.
what you're doing is racism towards me, and I am triggered, and I'm going to have to go to my safe space, and you are cancelled, all right? But because I've signed a contract, we will continue.
Thank you for your time, Catherine Deveny.
Panettone sucks, right? But my local IGA does not suck. And my local IGA in Brunswick is really well known for reading the room. Really well known. It pivots, it swerves. It's got the fair trade, the African food, the gluten-free, the vegan. It's got everything you want. And because the area is a melting pot, and it's
Yeah.
constantly melting and swirling, and it just
fabulous.
changes. You hear about things.
Yeah.
You hear about things and suddenly it's there. It's like I see something on Instagram and it's almost like IGA goes into my brain and goes, oh, yeah, there's that cookie dough that comes from that little Adelaide bakery, and there it is.
There it is.
So I was quite surprised. I mean, also considering the cost of living, right? So the cost of living is biting everyone, including wealthy people, which I am not, but you are, right? And everybody seems to be very aware of it. And I am anti-Christmas. I'm a conscientious objector of Christmas, right? But I was in my local IGA on Christmas Eve, and I saw this wall of Panettone, right, that Elon Musk could see from however far up his arse he lives, right?
Yes.
And there were Dolce & Gabbana Panettone for $95,
Yeah.
right? Now, that's not the vibe of the Brunswick IGA.
It's not.
And this is the thing.
But if
I cannot wait to hear you what the fuck you're going to say to finish the sentence.
just say, so you've walked in and you've seen that and that's your like immediate reaction. Me as a Panettone lover also walked into the supermarket. I see that and I think, oh, it's Christmas Eve. Never pay retail. That's going to be at least half price in 2 days.
That's right.
My desire for Panettone, which is great,
It is.
can wait 48 hours and save $50.
Right. So I thought I can't wait to pop in on Boxing Day and see how much these prices
Is it 20%
have
off?
been
Is it
slapped.
50% off? Is it $10 a tin
and,
now?
you know, so it's in a Dolce & Gabbana tin, which a lot of people love if you're into that kind of thing.
Sure.
And it was $95 for 500 grams. Okay, so go with me, people. Numbers, not my big skill, not great on maths, but even I know that makes that Panettone, $190 a kilo.
Yes.
Now, you like Panettone.
Yeah.
You would still have to come on board with the idea that is expensive.
That is outrageous.
Exactly. It's a crime. I shouldn't be banned from the IGA. Those fucking Panettones should be banned because that's the crime.
So
we are the victims.
You've been going back to the supermarket religiously.
I just it just kept staying there. There were some other ones too that were very expensive. And I thought, this is so interesting that they are making this choice. Brunswick IGA is very famous for its manager specials. Very famous. Like you just go, how can they even?
Yeah.
So I, on Boxing Day, went and they were still, they were not marked down. And I just made this little Instagram thing which started with, look, I know I really should get a life, right? But I started to follow this and I started to go in and count and take footage of
see how many
counting these Panettones about whether, there's one gone today. And then there was like a couple of days after Christmas and people were going, they're hanging out for Orthodox Christmas. They're just hanging on to them for
Easter.
And it's like, no. Look around at the manager specials here. All of the Christmas stuff is marked down, but not those Panettones.
When was the last time you checked and nobody had bought any, and what was the total that you saw?
The last time was 2 days ago. I wasn't in there. Somebody sent me a photograph because I'm waiting for clarification because I have great respect, a deep respect for my IGA.
Of course.
I don't believe in any other rules.
Yeah.
So I don't wear a helmet when I ride a bike, which is frequently, and I dry clean only, can suck whatever.
Yes.
That can suck any part of me that they like.
Sure.
But I was sent a message, said there's still 6. You know what they did at one point? Because they knew I was videoing. They moved them into half, like the western side of the deli counter and the eastern side to make me think, I'll go, oh my God, 3 have gone. There's only 3 left. And then I spied
they were lurking
through the bread. There was on the other. So all over the world was following this Panettone saga, right? So we had people in the UK, Canada, Tokyo, recordings from Paris, from Switzerland, the most expensive food hall in the world, had marked them all down. My favourites were someone in El Salvador sent me some video, and there was a woman saying there's a bloke in a New South Wales lockup who is following this and passing on all of these updates to 50 inmates. They eat a lot of shit, but even they agreed that Panettone sucks. So they are still there, and now it's a game on situation.
And at last count, there were 6.
It hasn't changed for over. If they're still like that now, 8 days. Now, I am not saying that the Panettones at our IGA are stale. I'm saying all Panettones are stale, and that is why some people love them.
Cath Deveny.
Oh my God, I'm nose tinting. Oh my God.
I present to you a Panettone from the IGA. There are only 5 there now.
You went there?
I went there.
You never did.
And I have purchased one at full price, still not discounted.
My God.
A $95 Panettone. Now, how do you feel with it in your hands? Do you feel like this is somehow a wrinkle in time? Do you feel like it's changed the course of how things should have been?
I feel like one of those people on Instagram that gets a puppy that they start crying. But I suddenly feel I understand why people buy it.
Do you want to crack it open and have a bit and see if it's...
How can we not?
I think we must.
Okay, all right.
I feel like we must.
You went there. You went there. Were you afraid you might see me?
Can I tell you? And I filmed it, Cath. And the woman saw me buying this and saw me filming it. And she said, this has gone too far.
Yes.
And I was frightened.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, I was. And I thought, I'm just doing a funny gag.
Chrissie, can you imagine if you and I walked into that IGA? I get the slow motion,
dark glasses.
The whole thing. It's just like everyone would just be like, and there would be fear. Okay.
I've just taken the lid off the tin, and I have to say at first sights, very disappointed with the size of the Panettone inside the big tin.
As again, I told you, that is 500 grams, that is 2 cups.
That doesn't seem right, but, you know.
Oh, mate, do you love Panettone or not? Make up your mind, mate. Make up your mind.
I do, if I can bloody open it. Hang on. Okay, I've been doing it wrong.
So there's a ribbon and there's a tin.
Jesus Christ, this is why it's still fresh for 2 years.
Hey, do you know what? Do you want to look closer? Because I tell you what, I don't even have to look at this to know. I can tell you what that date says without looking. 31st of March, 2024.
I know. We better get cracking on this.
So people said they might be holding out for
By the time I get it open, it'll be June.
They said they might be holding out for Easter, but Easter is the 31st of March 2024. Who would gift? You can't even re-gift a panettone
You can't.
if you give it to somebody on Easter Sunday.
Oh, my God. It smells so good. Oh,
It does.
I mean, normally it comes with a little sachet of icing sugar. Doesn't. You would have thought that nearly $100 would have got you that.
But look at the instructions. How many? Look at that.
What?
No
It's a full
sachets,
booklet.
but like a DIY at the back.
Oh, my God. It's really soft. I'm salivating. Are you going to eat some of this or are you really, like, anti?
I'm looking in the back and I'm looking for hacks, workarounds, instructions.
Oh, my God,
Okay,
Dev.
can we just, I will eat some, right? Okay. But can you I'd like an on the go.
Okay.
So as a panettone lover, because you are comparing to other things, whereas I'm just preferring, I am comparing it with, I think this is shit.
Okay. It is moist. Okay. It is moister than usual.
It is moister than
The
usual.
fruit is of a much better quality than usual.
Well, enjoy it because it's
It
like
is-
$15 a mouthful. But
is-
anyway, keep going.
It is dense and yet still light. And it's the best panettone I've ever had. I'm going to get you a really
Did
good
you hear
bit.
that, hush, listeners? Like there was, from me, a sharp intake of breath. I went,
I'm handing you a piece of panettone. Now, if you don't like this,
Amen.
then
Peace
you're,
be with you. Okay.
if you don't love this, you're even
All right. Now
more
that is-
mental than I thought.
That's quite a challenge. Okay, but the only thing I do is honesty. So I will give you honesty. If I look at your eyes, they're about to like pop out of your head and go in that tin.
I love panettone and that is the best I've ever had.
Now, that is a very moist, light, flavoursome, and normally in the panettone situation, often there is a feeling of kind of mashed insects.
Yeah. They're
Whereas
not there.
This is absolutely gently dried fruit and thought out. Not just like, what have we got left from last year? Let's just chuck that in because
That's
who
right.
gives a fuck? They're going to re-gift it anyway.
Exactly. It's buttery and brioche-like. It's good, isn't it, Dev? That is good.
If I was not a panettone hater, I would like this, but I wouldn't pay full price for it.
Well, luckily for you, I paid full price for it and you get
Christ.
to enjoy the spoils.
You know, if I've got this in my house, people will think I've won Tats Lotto. Or I'm like shagging Jeff Bezos or something going, oh, well, Dev, you know. We all went a bit crazy during lockdown.
Oh.
Like, you know, even people who thought, oh, no, we were good because we didn't have little kids and we're pretty happy. We've got a big house. We've
Oh,
got
no,
a country
I
house.
was not good.
Everybody went a bit crazy during lockdown. Of
course.
And I want to ask about your crazy, but like a lot of people really missed their beauticians and their hairdressers because they had hair where they didn't want it. The hair that they had wasn't doing the right thing. Their eyebrows weren't sitting the right way. Their
Yeah.
eyelashes weren't extended the way they like to see themselves in a mirror and go, I know that person. So when I say we all went a bit mad during lockdown, Chrissie Swan, cough up. I'm the Pope, confess.
It was the hardest time of my life.
Really?
Without question, yeah. I didn't cope with any element of it.
So what comes to mind when it all happened? What was it? Was it
I
not
enjoyed
being-
it. I enjoyed it for the first week. I thought this is nice.
What did you enjoy the first week, do you think?
I think the endless time and having nothing to do. That was lovely because I'm a busy person and everyone
Oh, yeah.
around me is a busy person. So that was nice. And then it absolutely was not nice because I had to homeschool my kids, which
And they're cunts. Like if they were nice, if they were smart, if they were pleasant, that's one thing. But
tell you what, they are all those things. I am not a teacher. I don't.
really, that really surprises me because you're a communicator, you're imaginative.
I don't
you
know
love people.
anything. I don't know anything that I could pass on apart from the important stuff like
So you're not
how to have a laugh and how to
right.
cook a good egg and all that sort of stuff. I spent a fortune at Officeworks with building blocks and kits and wipe off things. And then I realised...
You're like, I can't do this. I've got to go to Bunnings or Officeworks. Bunnings is closed. We're off to Officework. Stationery. The healing power of stationery.
And I still couldn't do it. And then my kids were feeling like they were stupid and I couldn't do it. And then I had to turn up every morning and broadcast on radio. And because I'm a feeler and I take on everyone's feeling, my town, Melbourne, which was the most suffering in the world, actually.
It really was.
I felt the pain and distress of everybody in this city, and I had to be better than them when I was not better than them in terms of my spirit and my mood and my mental state. For all those hours a day, I had to pretend like everything was okay, and it was not okay at all. And it just went on for so long. And then it stopped and it started and there was no routine, and I really felt like I was losing my mind. And that was when I started to walk. So actually I'm grateful for lockdown because I had to get out of the house somehow and away from all my failings as a teacher and a mother and all of that. I had to get away from it. And so I started to walk, and that has changed my life. So it's been great in one way, but it was a very, very bad time.
Don't you feel that in Melbourne, at least, there was the lockdown and the COVID stuff, and then after it was over, we were all just very gun shy, and even going into groups of people and not wearing masks, and it took us a while to get back in, and no one kind of talked about it, like those guys that come back from the walk going, oh, Pop never talked about it. But then there was this point a few months later, maybe 6 months later, that I heard people say, it was almost no one said it. And then within a week, almost everybody just gave me this little, could do with a bloody lockdown around now. Because we got used to lockdown being part of like a weekend, or school holidays or summer. And we missed it. But I've noticed recently that people are talking about that COVID time in a real feeling that it's behind them.
Yes.
And I remember during lockdown, I did...
Cock lockdown.
No, there was something that I was involved in online where we were all putting up nudes on Instagram, and we were seeing how long it took for the accounts to go down. And it was set up by this fantastic Sheila, and we were putting emojis on ourselves, and it was a lot of fun. So there was a lot of fun going on. One of the things that I did during lockdown is I delivered these cute little sweets, and people loved them. It was just something fun that was in their letterbox. So I got someone to make them, and I would go and pick them up and I would deliver them. So I was wearing my mask and I was on my bike, and I would go and deliver these sweets. And I dropped them in people's letterbox, and they were just like a fun thing. Do you remember Loon Croissants were doing right? And next week we'll be delivering to Moorabbin on Tuesday and Clayton on Friday, and it would be like, oh my God.
Oh my God,
So it became this thing. I only had 200 at a time, and I dropped them in people's letterboxes.
200?
Yeah, but 50 here, 50 there. You're allowed to exercise. And I had my mask on, and it was something I could do. It was a way to communicate with people rather than...
I get it.
So I had got to some really good friends of mine's places, and I got into a really good friend of mine's place, 2 people, and I needed to go to the toilet because I'd been on the bike for a while, and I went in. I said, look, I need to go to the toilet. Like, it was a necessary thing. We'd all been fully vaccinated, and I went in and I came out, and and they said, just take the mask off, sit down, have a cup of tea, because, we've infected each other already with whatever we may or may not have. And it was so wonderful to be with people in the house and talking. And so my mate Tracy said to her partner Joanne, tell Dev Kelly's story that she told you. So there's a woman called Kelly, and I think she lived in Thornbury. So she was in her house, and her Jack Russell came in the back of the house through the dog flap with a dead white rabbit in its mouth, covered in blood and mud, was shaking it the way dogs do. And she knew who the rabbit was. She lives in a single-fronted terrace. It's the people next door have a rabbit on there. It will often be in the hutch,
a free-rangey sort of one.
So she gets the rabbit out of the dog's mouth, and she shampoos it.
It's dead?
And conditions it. And I don't know whether she conditions it. That could have been me. She shampoos it. She washes the rabbit. She dries it with a hairdryer.
Oh, she's officially lost her mind.
And she creeps out the front and over her fence and puts it in the hutch, which is on the front veranda. So she goes back into the house and she's like, whew. And she's sitting there. Remember how quiet lockdown was?
Yeah.
And she hears about 45 minutes later the neighbours coming out screaming. So she comes out wrapping herself in her dressing gown with her mug going, what's happened? And they're like, oh, my God, our rabbit died yesterday and we buried it in the backyard and now it's back in the hutch.
You're joking.
I am not. And she's like, oh, my God, are you sure? And then kind of recoils into the house.
Did she ever tell them?
No, but they probably might know now. You are the worst for doing that. And I am the worst for telling that story because they are going to find out.
I want to talk to you about heyday and rock bottom.
Yes.
I have done your Gunners Masterclass and I loved it. And if you are thinking about writing something, try and get into a Gunners Masterclass.
Masterclasses, I do retreats in Victoria and also in Paris.
Magical.
But the one that I really love is the 90-minute online right here, right now, which is really great because you can do the Zoom with us at the time or you can keep them, in your folder because you get a recording. And a lot of people just go, yeah, sometimes I know I want to write and I just need some stimulus. So
yes.
Yeah, heyday and rock bottom.
Heyday and rock bottom are two of the greatest thought starters I've ever, because I love to write and I want to write again, but I don't really have the mental real estate at the moment for it. But I still dream of it.
Are there any ideas? Are there things that just kind of like almost intrusive thoughts they're knocking going, hey, hang on.
They are, and then they get skittled by, I've got to get to the IGA and buy Dev a Panettone. So look, it's not my time at the moment. But speaking of heyday and rock bottom, you've obviously experienced a heyday or maybe you're experiencing it now. And with regard to rock bottom, have you experienced that?
Yeah, I think, and I've written about this in a lot of depth in my memoir, True North, and I've always been very open about it. So I'm bipolar, but I suffered a lot of trauma and kind of abuse.
What is
as a child.
bipolar?
So bipolar is basically
Did it used to be called something else?
Manic depression.
Right, okay.
I've got a great psychiatrist. So all my life I've thought I've had it. Like my great-grandmother had it. My cousin, Kate, died by suicide. We were very close. There was only 3 months difference in age. And I've always thought I had it. And any mental health professional that I dealt with said, you can't have it. You're too productive. You've never been medicated. You've never been hospitalised. You've never missed a deadline. You've never cancelled a gig. So this swings back into lockdown. After lockdown, it was like November, and I don't know whether you remember, but we had blue skies for weeks and weeks. So suddenly I rode my bike where I was used to almost all the cafes and all of the life in our area, apart from the supermarkets and where you got vaccinations, it kind of felt boarded up or almost like a veil over it. And it was like everything was just open.
Yeah, like a scene from those like West Side Story when everyone's throwing their windows open and singing into the lane.
During that time, I thought I was just like really just everybody was so excited. We were out and about. We were going into nurseries and buying plants and, just we were excited. And look, a lot of people had more money than usual because of JobKeeper, but also because they hadn't been spending money on travel and restaurants,
holidays,
and stuff.
movies, anything.
So there was more money than usual. So I was in a very heightened state. And I didn't realise I hadn't really been sleeping. But I've got a really good psychologist who I've dealt with for 3 years, and it's only because she had been observing me for that long that she said, you have bipolar. And I was like, fucking, as I have been saying. So according to my very good psychiatrist, so at that point it was like, okay, well, we need to have a psychiatrist diagnose you. And I know enough about it to talk to my GP. And I said, in the meantime, can we try Seroquel, which is an antipsychotic? It's a very basic, it's like the Panadol of, if you go to like a music festival and have too many disco biscuits and start going and having a few beers with Merlin. And if they have to put you in the short stay at a hospital, they'll give you Seroquel because it's an antipsychotic, so it will turn off anything that is a psychopharmaceutical response to LSD or any kind of pinger. So it's
I'm saying I've literally never done anything illegal. I'm a
so
jag.
it's an imbalance in your emotions. So I always just assumed it was genetic, but my psychiatrist says, and I love the way that he thinks, he says he thinks there's at least four different reasons you can get it. It can be chemical, it can be brain structure, it can be genetic, and it can be a response to childhood trauma and abuse. So I don't know what mine is, but I do have a genetic component. But I am on 2 tiny doses of 2 different drugs. So a drug called Seroquel, which is an antipsychotic, a tiny dose which helps me have really good sleep. But over time it also works as a mood stabilizer as well, so it's tiny. But the other drug that I'm on, and we didn't try any other drugs, it took us a little while, but we decided these were the best ones to go with, is a drug called lamotrigine, it's also known as Lamictal, which is an anti-epileptic drug. So we don't really know how psychopharmaceuticals work. We just know that some of them work. So I think for me, I haven't, since I've been medicated, which is a couple of years, I haven't had really any swings out of what they call the window of tolerance. So the window of tolerance is where we should be living.
Before you were medicated, what would a swing out of that window of tolerance look like?
So bipolar depression is, it was unusual for me because I would say I've got depression and it's just like we've got this idea of what depression is. But when you read into things, not when you read into things, but when you read stuff about, bipolar depression is this absolute absence of any kind of dopamine or any kind of motivation. The best way I can describe what it's like living with bipolar, and now I'm medicated, I don't have, I live in the window of tolerance most of the time. Occasionally I can feel myself flicking out and I'll up my medication to pull me back. Mm-hmm. It's living in a state of normality for not as much time as is ideal or even kind of functional, and you spend a lot of your time feeling like you are in love or heartbroken. So even if you look at the chemical profile of bipolar, that's exactly what it looks like. So
that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So it's difficult though. Like sometimes I go, maybe I'm not bipolar, but I'm ADHD and have a traumatic childhood, and that's how it has presented itself. Because we can't do a blood test for things.
No,
like this,
of course not.
But
I think it's interesting that there's a long process to get an official diagnosis. And most people I know that have been diagnosed recently with ADHD or bipolar or anything else have always known it themselves.
Yeah.
Or have known it recently.
Or are not
because
surprised.
You know yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like a retrospective diagnosis. They're going to a professional saying, I need a diagnosis for ADHD. I know I have it. How do I get on with my life?
But the thing is, when you're so used to just being you and navigating your world, and, people like you and I are really privileged. We've been able to set up our world to work for us because we're not strapped into a corporation or a religion or a bureaucracy or anything like that. So it's been easy for us. So if you are privileged like we are, we've been able to set up our lives so that we can adapt to our neurospiciness or whatever. So it's harder to see. So if I was, say, working as a teacher and having to turn up at certain times and do certain things and be emotionally capable to be able to step up. And if you have always coped, because my coping mechanism, I don't really drink or anything like that, my coping mechanism is coping, it becomes harder to spot. So it's not just having something, like whether it's dyslexia or whether it's ADHD or whether it's autism or whether it's bipolar. It's not. It's the person you are. It's the other personality traits that you have. It's the advantages you have. It's the era you live in. Like, look at the era that we live in.
And I think for you also, your own resourcefulness has helped you a lot, because even just before we started this podcast, we were talking that in common we share an inability to tell left and right, even after nearly 100 years on this planet together.
But we know up and down.
But we know up and down is fine. But every time someone says to me, can you move a bit to the left, I automatically check my right hand because I've got a lump from writing. I'm a right-handed person, and I know that once I hit that, I know that the opposite is left. And I've done that every day of my life that I can remember. And I think that you, consciously or subconsciously, have always been creating frameworks within your power to get through life and work out ways that can work for you, and that is exhausting.
It is. I mean, I feel like I'm sad for that young person who went through so much and had, like, I don't have any safety net now, but I'm a 55-year-old MILF. But I didn't have any safety net then, and it's just like anything I wanted, wanted to go to the school camp in grade 6, made macrame owls and sold them, door to door, and, worked in a chemist every night after school and 3 hours Saturday morning from the age of 12 to 15.
Please read Catherine Deveny's book, True North. I was utterly speechless.
There's one part of me that is so thrilled and relieved that I have always been self-reliant and never assumed. Like, the most terrifying thing for me, like, people think that I'm really brave because they see me as taking risks or whatever. The most terrifying thing for me would be to have to financially rely on someone. That's the most terrifying thing for me. Or to be stuck in a job or a relationship that I couldn't get out of because I was trapped because of finances or the repercussions of social expectation or being ostracised.
Which brings us back to the discussion we had earlier about sort of buying into society's messages about superannuation and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. I think that the financial security of knowing that you have somewhere to sleep at night, that is what means the most to me. All of
Chrissie,
it is rubbish. I mean, I
could not agree.
I'm happy to buy black and gold label frozen veggies, whatever, eat an egg every 3 days. None of that bothers me. But the idea that I wouldn't have somewhere to sleep, that is my idea of hell.
I remember you went through, there was some, we're taking a different direction, firing, sacking, axing, redundancy at one point. And I remember talking to you on the phone. I'd sent you a message or something, or you'd called me, and all you were talking about was, like, I could see there would be other opportunities for you. And if it was me, you would go, well, yeah, of course, Dev is Dev and this will happen. And I knew how loved and skilled and how adaptable you were. But all you spoke about on that phone call was your fear of losing the place that you slept.
Yeah.
That was all you spoke about. I'm worried about losing the place.
Yeah.
I'm worried about, and that was it. So I think it's outrageous what's happening with housing now. If we, in any part of the world, but let's just say Australia, if we believe that citizens should be born and that we people live here and they are citizens of this country, at the very least everybody should get a 2-bedroom flat apartment that is theirs, default. When you're 18, there's your keys, toilet, bathroom, bit of a view, bit of a garden, somewhere you can keep your cat, no problem. Why we don't do that? Don't underestimate the vested interests of people to have the have-nots so they can be the haves.
Yes.
So they can be the unfortunate so they can be the fortunate. The disadvantaged so they can feel advantaged. I grew up in public housing and I remember going, why can't people who live in housing commission houses like us and everybody around us, why can't we have pools?
Yeah.
Why can't we have bedrooms of our own? Why am I sharing with my sisters? Why do we just have like open fire in the 1980s when people have ducted heating? And it's just like, oh yeah, but then people wouldn't work hard. It's like, you're working hard.
Yes.
You're working hard. If those kind of extras and privileges came to people working hard, every woman in Africa would have a 10-bedroom house with a triple garage and a pool.
Yeah.
So it's about privilege. It's about class. It's about this illusion of...
And it's about believing the messages.
Yeah,
to
work
keep
is
people
virtue,
where they are.
and that being busy is some kind of sign of goodness or quality. People will often say, oh, how are you, Dev? Busy, always busy. I go, I am not busy at all. And they go, oh, no. And they try to convince me that I am. And I go, I am not. Put a video on me. There's a cat that's got a GoPro on them that I watch all the time saying, mate, I have a lot of skills. One of them is I have a really big bladder. so I don't wake up at night, and I can stay in bed until 11 o'clock and not have to move. And the only reason that I move is because I'm hungry and I need to go and sit down.
The
and
only
have
reason
some
I
eggs.
move in the morning is for coffee. It's
Right.
just my
So I
it's
can
the
just
highlight.
I can sit there forever and going, the stuff on Instagram and the books I write and all this stuff, this is not what I do around my job. I don't have a job. I have no boss. I have no job. I have no super. I have no savings. I do as I please. And people will go, oh, so, what are you doing today? I'm going to get this or that. And I say, oh, treating yourself, going to have a cup of coffee.
$100 Panettone.
It's like, no, I'm not treating myself. My life is about meaning, connection, pleasure, and life is so short.
I'll get there eventually. I want to do a round of celebrity solutions with you.
That is why I wrote across. I cannot wait. My favourite sentence is, I need your advice. I am here for it.
Fantastic. I've got some letters here from podcasters.
This might go off because we are Panettone fueled off our heads.
And we have to be quick here. All right, here we go. I'm just going to throw some in your direction. Shoot the Breeze has said, my brother has decided to get married in Italy for absolutely no reason. I have 3 kids under 4 and no money. Should I go?
No, absolutely not. What I don't understand, why do people need this stuff observed? Why do they have to pretend they're the Kardashians? Why are they spending money that they don't have to buy things that they don't particularly want to impress people that they don't like? Absolutely not. I think
Say that again. Buying things
that they don't need with money they don't have to impress people that they don't like.
That's weddings.
That's it. That's it. And I'm anti-marriage, but I wonder, because I've been able to be the belle of the ball and the shiniest object in the room as a writer and on telly and
every day of your goddamn life.
But I wonder whether if I had gone a more conventional route, like I'd become a teacher, that's probably what I would have done if I didn't do what I did. If I was more conservative outlook, maybe I would have wanted to have this planning day of being the princess for the day and just creating this thing for my friends and family. That is, as the Italians say, fucking bullshit. And I know because now I speak fluent Italian because I have eaten this panettone.
I love the hand motion that went with that.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about weddings. There's been something that I've disagreed with my whole life, and that is the saying that pops up with monotonous regularity from women that say these words out of their mouth. Oh, every girl dreams of her wedding day. Not for 1 second have I ever dreamt of my wedding day. Not when I was 5 and playing with Barbies. Not when I was watching Knots Landing and saw Valley Ewing get married. It's never crossed my mind about what I would wear and what we would eat and what the music would be. And I just want to know, am I a strange woman?
No. I find weddings really creepy. There's a real forced notion. I find weddings creepy. There's a forced feeling of we all have to act a certain way, and there is a kind of theatrical notion to it.
Yeah.
And the day of a wedding has kind of nothing to do with the marriage or the relationship or what it's like. I would be kind of more interested in celebrating people who had not even been together for a long time, but people who had evolved together and transformed. Maybe they're like, we've opened our relationship now and this is our 3rd. Or we've gone through some ups and downs and we went to counselling to split up well, but we rediscovered parts of each other and we are making this amazing choice. I like the idea of people going, got married, really regret it. And if they say it to me, I say, why don't you get divorced? And they go, oh, no, but I still love him. I go, no, stay together. Stay together.
That's interesting.
I never ever dreamt about my wedding day, but I do think I would look at wedding dresses and think if I was to get married, that's what I would wear. But I would also go, if I was going to the prom in America, that's what I would wear.
What do you think of the idea of your father giving you away?
Revolting. It's revolting. The whole thing is
absurd
revolting
to me.
But I think it's so we are playing the ball and not the man or the bride here. what we've got to realise is, how is that still such a sticky concept? Because so many people who are doing this have left aside a lot of social conditioning and expectations, happily doing different kinds of things. But the idea of monogamy and fidelity and marriage and romance and happily ever after looking like, if I say to people, monogamy and longevity is no sign of the quality of a relationship, so many people you see them get shocked.
But it's the truth.
If we lived to 300 years old, we would not be fantasising and glamorising and worshipping the idea of the marriage is forever and love is forever. And we would just go, well, that's just ridiculous. It's the same as wearing the same pair of jeans your whole life. Like there's no choice. So I'm 55 now, and there's no choice that I would have made at 25 that still would have been a good fit for me now.
Yeah.
But one of the other things that I think that people really got to realise, because they'll say, oh, no, but that really smart person, that really smart woman, that really smart. And it's only about the women. Men don't want to get married. Men like to own women or have the feeling that they own women. Men like looking masculine by having someone who looks like that.
But men would also be buying into society's expectations that you get, if you're a real man, then you have a woman.
Yes, but there's not, if you think about bridal magazines, there's not groom magazines, and there's not the kind of conversation around it. It would be the performative proposals are just awful, so revolting. And it's talk about expectation, talk about pressure, talk about manipulation. I do find it quite fascinating how sticky that is. And so when women, powerful women or women have options, choose to do it, that actually makes it worse for, less advantaged women, less privileged women, because they see that as a sign of success, that woman's got all the options in the world, but she's still choosing to do that, and she's still choosing to take her husband's name, be walked down the aisle by her father, and give her children the father's name. Like, that's one of the big conversations. That's an even bigger conversation, let alone proposals. Like, it's something like 98% of both women and men feel in heterosexual relationships that the man should propose. Both the women and the men feel that. I just don't understand the whole concept of it, Dev. And I love that people are questioning this. I just think social media has been so great because once upon a time people were going, oh, you're just saying that because you're bitter and you can't find anybody or something like that.
No one would want to marry you anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's so easy for people to minimise that. But there's a great nuanced discussion around the ideas of marriage, monogamy, Anzac Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, any of the Australia Day.
Questioning. A bit of critical thinking.
Once upon a time, you'd just be dismissed as a wowser and you couldn't have the conversation, whereas people are going, oh, there's so many ways that we can find a better path for ourselves, that we live a more authentic, genuine
life. Or even
life.
if you just think about it and come to the conclusion that you do agree with it and it sits well with you. The thinking about it is what I think is valuable.
I think so too. And people will just they will kind of, arc up if that conversation comes up, and I go, but hang on, I have the confidence of my contradictions.
That's right.
Eat meat. I wear leather. I use fossil fuels.
Yes.
I don't have any problem going, oh no, it's totally wrong, but I do it because I fucking love bacon.
Yes.
And I like to fly. And, I don't want to walk the whole way from here to a house down near the beach. I want to go in a car because I'm lazy and spoiled, and that's what I like to do, or even just that's my choice.
You're allowed to
but
make
as
your own
soon
decisions.
as marriage comes up, there are all of these. But the thing is, people make decisions emotionally and back them rationally. It is a clusterfuck of cognitive dissonance. But in all of the things that I do, and I know that some people consider them kind of a bit left of field or progressive or radical, whatever, I don't. The thing that people have been most thrown by is me being a conscientious objector of Christmas. That is the most radical thing in a lot of people's eyes that I've ever said or done.
Really?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It was, I've never married. It's like, oh, who'd marry you? It's like, really, why aren't you married? It's like, I haven't found the right owner. But I just, from the youngest age, I saw it as a trap. I just saw women, and it was the women that I was surrounded by.
Did you tell your kids about, did you do the whole Santa thing?
Yeah, and I regret it. It's the only thing I regret with my kids is the Santa thing.
Can I tell you?
The only thing I regret.
I never really thought about it. And then I had my first son and Christmas rolled around, and I believe so deeply in being honest with my children about everything because I didn't really have that. That's my conscientious change to how I parent from how I was parented. And it just felt like the most terrible lie. I could not look. I did it. Of course I did it because you're an asshole if you don't. But God, when Peg finally a couple of years ago, last year, we were walking home from a taco stand in Los Angeles and she said, it was about 2 days before Christmas, and she said to me, "You're Santa, aren't you?" And she's my last one. And I went, yes. And I'm the Tooth Fairy and I'm the Easter Bunny. And
I'm Jesus Christ.
And I'm sorry for
lying.
I'm
Bigfoot and I'm Elvis and I'm still alive.
Cath Deveny, thank you so much for your time. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. You are an absolute gem.
I was so delighted that you asked me. I want to say one thing to you.
Yes.
I hope you know how loved you are. You are loved by so many. You make people feel connected and you bring joy to people. And I just don't think you have any idea how loved you are. And I want to thank you.
You are so kind. Loved you for so long.
Oh, I love you too.